Ready?
Welcome, everyone. I am Tamara Blake Wallace, Planning Commission Administrator. This meeting will be conducted as a hybrid meeting, allowing for both virtual and in-person participation. Serving as moderator for tonight for our January 17th, 2024 meeting is Chris Goldsmith, who will now go over the rules and etiquette of this meeting. Chris?
Thank you, Tamara. Good evening. As she mentioned, I'm Chris Goldsmith, Development Review Coordinator, Planning and Zoning, and I'll be your Zoom moderator this evening. This meeting is being recorded on video and audio for record-keeping purposes. For those attending virtually via Zoom, please keep yourself muted to ensure no interruptions to the evening. If you're asked to speak and you're attending by telephone with audio only, you can mute and unmute using your phone's mute button or by pressing *6 on the keypad. If you're attending virtually with a computer or smart device, you can mute and unmute using the microphone mute button on the Zoom toolbar or by using keyboard shortcuts. You can press Alt-A on a Windows device or Command-Shift-A on a Mac. When the floor is open for public comments or questions, those attending in person will be asked to speak first, and those attending virtually will follow. When called upon to speak, please identify yourself for the record first and then speak. If attending by telephone, you can comment by pressing *9 on the phone's touchpad to raise your hand, and you'll be called upon in turn at the appropriate time. If attending virtually and you wish to comment or ask a question, raise your Zoom hand and you'll be called upon. Please say your name every time you speak for the benefit of those calling in who cannot see you. Lastly, please use the Zoom chat to let staff know if you're experiencing technical issues with the video or audio, and we will work expeditiously to try to correct them. Please refrain from placing comments or questions in the Zoom chat, as not all in attendance at the public meeting can see those communications. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Chris, and I'll turn the meeting back over to our chairman.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Calvert County Planning Commission's January 17th, 2024 regular meeting. We'll begin with item 1 on the proposed agenda. Roll call. Vice Chair Kernan.
Here.
Commissioner Gadway.
Here.
Commissioner Freeland.
Here.
Commissioner Toohey.
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Holler.
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Right? Moving on. Action on the proposed agenda. Commissioners, any changes?
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Kernan, seconded by Commissioner Toohey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Next on our agenda is item 4, actions on the proposed summary of actions. We will start with item A, December 13th, 2023 joint work session.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Kernan, seconded by Commissioner Gadway. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The second item is item B, December 13th, 2023 PC regular meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Can I ask a question first,
Yes,
Madam
sir.
Chair? We have several votes that are recorded as 601, and we only had 6 members in attendance that day. So I was wondering if we get that changed to reflect that, would that be more accurate?
I see Becky making notes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's my only point. Thank you so much.
Next on the agenda,
Oh,
item,
We still got to vote on that.
Oh,
Does
sorry.
your motion stand with the corrections?
It does.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving forward.
all right. Item 5, recognitions of persons attending the meeting. Tonight from Planning and Zoning, we have Mary Beth Cook, our director. We have Judy Makel, our deputy director. Christine Fenimore, principal planner. Becky Parkinson, our planning commission clerk. And serving as our legal counsel, John Mattingly. Moving on to item 6, major subdivisions for final review and action. We do not have any on the agenda tonight. That moves us to item 7, applications for site plan review and action. Item 7A, we have CSPR 142842, Sunset Terrace condominiums.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Chris Fenimore. I'm a principal planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning, and I'm here tonight to present Sunset Terrace condominiums. CSPR 142842. This project is located in the Solomons Town Center. We're found on tax map 46A. It's two parcels, parcels 20 and 21, and on the map they're highlighted in yellow. The total acreage is approximately 0.42 acres. Again, we're in the Solomons Town Center zoning, C1 sub area. We are also in the critical area. So the critical area overlay zoning applies, and we are in what's called the IDA. That stands for Intensely Developed Area. The property has frontage on South Solomons Island Road, as well as water frontage along Back Creek. The conceptual site plan was submitted and accepted by the Technical Evaluation Group, also known as TEG, at their meeting in July of 2022. The conceptual site plan number 2 was received in November of 22. The project was referred to the Board of Appeals for a variance for building height. And the Board of Appeals heard that case in September of 2023, and then again October of 2023. The variance for height was approved, and that was signed in November of 2023. The conceptual site plan was granted a 1-year extension in accordance with the County Zoning Ordinance 4-204A1A by the Planning Commission Administrator on July 31st of 2023, which extends it through July 27th of this year. Conceptual site plan number 3 was received in November of 2023, and that's what you see before you this evening. Staff have reviewed the conceptual site plan, and I'll move to the next slide. For compliance with the Calvert County Comprehensive Plan, the Calvert County Zoning Ordinance, the Solomons Town Center Zoning Ordinance, the Solomons Town Center Master Plan and Zoning Ordinance, as well as other county ordinances and regulations. Here you'll see a color exhibit of one of the pages from the conceptual site plan. What is proposed is just under 19,000 square foot of new development between buildings 1 through 3. Building 3 being closest to the water, and then 1 being closest to South Solomons Island Road at the bottom of the screen there. It's comprised of 8 residential condo units in buildings 2 and 3, which are the larger purple squares, for lack of a better description, that you see there. Retail, commercial, and/or eating establishment is required use for the first floor of building 1, which is the closest to South Solomons Island Road, and it would be facing the street. Associated site improvements such as parking, sidewalks, stormwater management are also proposed as part of the development. The property has frontage again on Solomons Island Road and Back Creek. We are on public water and sewer in this location. 8 total parking spaces are required. That's 1 for each unit. 16 parking spaces are proposed. It's 8 under each building, and those are on the first floor. It's basement parking, and then above that are the condo units. No on-site parking is required for the retail/commercial use in building 1, and that's coming from the Solomons Town Center Ordinance 6-12. The project proposes to utilize TDRs, transfer development rights, for density above the base density of 1 dwelling unit per acre. The maximum in this location is 20 units per acre with the use of TDRs, and that's coming from the bonus section of the Solomons Town Center Ordinance.
And what's the dwelling unit per acre breakdown too on this?
Correct my math if I'm wrong, because I was much better at art. My math has us at 8 dwelling units per acre.
But this is 0.42 acres, and it's 8 dwelling units going on 0.42 acres. right?
Like I said, correct my math if I'm wrong.
Very clearly told you, Commissioner.
Okay. It is,
And my calculator's sitting over there.
it is right at 20 dwelling units per acre from what I can tell.
Okay,
And that does not take away anything for the retail or commercial space. That's including the square footage of the land use of that. So that's like not even counting that. So,
which is how that's done.
right. It's a freebie. I get it.
So the Solomon's ordinance bonus section says if you check these boxes, you can get the higher.
I get it.
One of the boxes checked is to have that commercial at the street.
I got it.
At this time, there are no impacts to existing environmental features. The setback reduction of 5 foot from the critical area buffer was issued by the zoning officer. So this critical area buffer is 10 foot. The zoning officer can approve a setback reduction of up to 50% of that. So that was done, and the setback was reduced to 5 foot, and that is obviously on the water side of the property. The project is exempt from forest conservation because we're in the critical area. The project must meet all requirements for landscaping, lighting, architectural review, as well as stormwater management.
So Christine, when you say it's exempt from the forestry, that means the trees that are currently on the site do not have to be replaced?
Not necessarily. So Forest Conservation Act applies to non-critical area properties. We're in the critical area, therefore it's exempt. But the critical area regulations apply. Another application of a planting requirement is the tree coverage provision in the Solomon's Town Center ordinance. That usually can be met with a combination of critical area regs, which require plantings, in this case, along the buffer, along with the landscape requirements for the site.
So that's the revision then?
So critical area regs apply in the critical area. Forest conservation applies to non-critical area.
Okay.
That's how, did I answer your question, sir?
Yes, you did, thank you.
Thank you.
And touch on the parking, one more, how many parking spaces will be available for this project? It's eight dwelling
So
units, right?
there are 8 units proposed, residential, correct. The requirement is 1 parking space per unit.
Uh-huh.
They are providing 2 under the buildings.
Fantastic.
It is, yeah.
It hasn't been but a month ago that
Not that long, yeah.
we had a project come before us that is going to impact the public parking lot.
So the retail commercial space is not required to propose
Understood.
parking on site. Similar situation. Here you will see the building elevations as received with the initial conceptual site plan. This slide shows a couple pages out of the conceptual site plan. One is the existing conditions, and next to it is the site layout plan, which is very similar to the color exhibit a couple slides ago. Again, the project must go through the 3-step process for site plan approval prior to submitting permit applications. The concept site plan is a category 1, which those are required to be presented to the Planning Commission. The next step after Planning Commission is the detailed site plan, and then eventually the final site plan, which is required to be approved prior to permit submittal. At this time, I will entertain any questions. I would also like to mention that the applicant, Mr. Reinecker, and the project engineer, Dan Kelsch with COA Barrett, are present for any questions that you may have that are appropriate for them.
Are there any, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Are there any other existing properties in and around the Solomon's Island area that are purely residential units that are over 10 dwelling units per acre, that are existing standing?
I would have to research that and get back to you. I don't have that type
Okay.
of information.
I'm just
at
curious,
hand.
because we approved the one last month to move forward at 20, just under 20 dwelling units per acre. And this is another one that is 0.02 acres off of 20 dwelling units per acre. And so it's absolute maximum. And again, I'm gonna say the same thing I said last month. It's gonna absolutely redefine and remake the entire view of the island and take away its current nature. Thank you.
Chris, the public safety fire EMS, has that been satisfied?
They have outstanding comments, but they're more appropriate for the detailed site plan stage.
Thank you.
They are a reviewer on both the conceptual site plan and the detailed site plan.
Do we have any other questions or comments?
They've have all these comments, were these submitted prior to the extension request? Or were these comments and revisions from staff submitted after the extension request?
It's probably a combination of both review of Plan 2 and Plan 3. The extension was granted prior to Plan 3 being submitted. Some comments were generated with the initial, but the way they are addressed would be appropriate with the detailed site plan. What I do is include the outstanding comments from agencies that are significant enough and continue on to the detailed site plan. I include those with the staff report because they are relevant.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Also included in the staff report are recommendations of approval. We have 6 coming from staff. Some of them are standard. This is a project that will require a replatting because it is 2 parcels to combine those, as well as record any easements, abandon easements, establish setbacks, lateral lines, that sort of thing. Covenants and restrictions are also required to be recorded pertaining to the bonus provisions of the Solomon's Town Center ordinance with regard to the first floor of Building 1, which faces the street. And then conditions 3 through 6 are pretty standard with all conceptual site plans. Any significant deviation of this plan at the detailed site plan step, we would revisit the Planning Commission, seeing it again. Any outstanding comments from the TEG reviewers need to be addressed with the detailed site plan submittal, and the conceptual site plan shall expire 12 months after it's been granted approval unless a detailed site plan has been accepted by the Department of Planning and Zoning. And those are our standard comments, and it's built into our process. That's a time frame. So of course the next steps at this time would be approval with the conditions listed above, approval with modification to those conditions. There's an option for deferral or denial. So again, I'm here for any questions, but we could also move on to the next step if you don't have any other questions. And the engineer is here for questions that they should answer.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move that in the matter of CSPR 142842 Sunset Terrace Condominium, we approve with the conditions listed.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tui, seconded by Commissioner Kernan. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us on to the next item, 8, major subdivision applications for preliminary review and action. We do not have any on the agenda tonight. Moves us to item 9. We do not have any long-range planning items tonight. We have item 10, items for discussion and/or action. We do not have any on the agenda tonight. That moves us to item 11, items of interest. You have in your packet the site plan and subdivision application list. Are there any questions or comments on those before we move forward? They're for informational purposes only. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. Chris, do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak?
Just have a real quick comment. Bob Estes representing himself, and the common citizen looks at the ordinances and say, oh, we're protected from this, that, and the other. Then you come to this meeting, you see, well, suddenly we can make it taller. I didn't hear any reason why we had to, and suddenly you get to have less setback from the water. No reason for that either. So it makes you wonder as a citizen what the ordinance actually do to protect us. And that's just this is just a citizen's point of view. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's why we have a Board of Appeals.
Do we have any hands raised online?
No hands are seen at this time.
Okay, we don't have anyone online that wishes to speak. That moves us on to item 13, adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Gadway, seconded by Commissioner Tui. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? All right, all adjourned. Thank you all for attending tonight's meeting.